Hello guys and gals, and this is a reading from Whodunit, You Decide, Many Mysteries for You to Solve by Conrad, illustrated by Lucy Corvino. Okay, I want to make sure I got the name right. It was either Covino or Corvino, and it's Corvino. Okay. In the last one, it was about a bank robbery had gone awry and someone got killed, and so it was really a fascinating mystery. Make sure you check that one out. Now, what we have here is, the next case is the haunted house murder, and I'm not sure how long these are going to go. I'm only going to do one of these at a time, basically because it's really kind of intensive with moving from page to page and stuff like that. But we are going to read this, and this is, of course, all rights reserved. If there is any copyright dispute, I will take the video down. All you have to do is email me, and I will take it down. Okay, the prosecutor paced in front of the jury. The prosecution. It all began as a harmless escapade. 4 healthy teenagers sneaking into an old abandoned house. A final night of adventure before one of them went off to college. That will never happen now. Lily Kincaid will never go to Princeton. For on that night, Lily was brutally murdered by this man, William Willis. Even dressed up in a cheap suit paid for by his lawyer, Billy Willis looked like the homeless recluse he was, harmless enough, or so everyone had thought. The prosecutor reviewed the facts. The trespassing teens had been Lily Kincaid, her younger sister Anne, and their boyfriends, Mark and Larry. On a sultry August night, a week before Lily's departure for Princeton, all 4 finally did what they'd always talked about, breaking into the eerie, isolated Always mansion at midnight and searching for ghosts. Lily's boyfriend Mark had been in the lead, using his flashlight to illuminate cobweb-filled crannies. Despite promises to the contrary, the boys were having their fun, scaring the girls at every opportunity. They had finished exploring the first floor and were halfway down a second-floor corridor when Larry turned around and saw that Lily was no longer behind him. "Lily, where are you?" Their whispers grew louder as they began to backtrack along the corridor. "Stop fooling around." Lily was hardly the type to wander off on her own. "Lily?" And then they heard it. Several muffled shouts, followed by a piercing scream. Lily's scream. When Anne and the boys stepped into the dusty bedroom, they saw the 18-year-old stretched out on the bed frame. A hunting knife was protruding from her chest, the black handle grip facing her shoes. They were hoping it was all a perverse joke. Lily getting even with the boys. Anne nudged her sister, telling her to cut the dramatics. "Lily?" Anne gazed down at her own hands. They were covered in blood. She's dead. Mark was just stepping forward to check her pulse when Anne gasped. "Oh my gosh, did you see?" She pointed out into the hallway. "A man with a knife." Instinctively, the boys gave chase, inadvertently leaving the surviving sister alone. No more than 30 seconds later, and they pursued clouds of cobwebs through the downstairs rooms. A second scream brought them up short. "Anne," Mark said. Larry instantly reversed their tracks. "You left me alone," Anne screamed as they ran back in. "Let's get out of here." The boys agreed. Whoever had done this was still close by, wielding a second knife. They ran, Anne sandwiched between her protectors, and didn't stop until they had reached the safety of the police station. When Ben Always, the mansion owner, was told of the murder, his opinion was unequivocal. "Billy Willie," he replied. "Willis, I mean. A homeless drunk who's been squatting in the house for years. I kick him out and lock up the place, but he always finds some way in. The girl must have surprised old Billy. He's got a crazy violent streak. Anyone will tell you." An hour later, the police discovered the lanky, middle-aged drunk passed out in the park. He had finished 2 pints of bourbon, and his hand was gripped around a third. Through his alcoholic stupor, Billy denied the murder. "I ain't been in that place for days. That Always guy is crazy. Last time he took a shotgun and put it right up to my head. Said he'd blow my brains out if I came back. and Kincaid was unable to identify Billy Willis in a lineup, but there still seemed to be more than enough evidence. The district attorney summed up the case with an emotional appeal. The prosecution. Lily Kincaid was the proverbial golden girl, the joy of her family, the focus of their hopes and dreams. Undertale reference. For years, Lily's parents struggled so that one of their children could go to a good college, and now those hopes and dreams, where are they? Stabbed through the heart by a drunken monster. Okay, the trial witness and evidence. It says this case can be solved with 3 clues. Prosecution witness Ben Always. The prosecution calls Ben Always to testify about his meeting with Billy Willis on the day of the murder. The short, unassuming man says he never threatened Willis with a shotgun, and that Willis, a vagrant, appeared edgy and desperate for a drink. During defense cross-examination, Always stated that on the night of the murder, he was at home, 2 blocks away alone, watching television. The defense questions Always about his connection to the victim. Always teaches at the local high school. Ben Always. I never had Lily in any regular class, but in the summer I work with students, preparing them for college boards. Last year I coached Lily, and this summer Anne was in my group. Now that Lily is dead, the Kincaids are hoping Anne will get into Princeton. Defense witness clerk. Vince Winters, a clerk at All Night Liquor, testifies that at approximately 11 p.m. on the night of the murder, Billy Willis entered his store and bought 3 pints of Retcher's bourbon. Vincent Winters. He paid in loose change, like always. During the day, Billy panhandles along Oak Street. Every now and then, he makes enough to splurge on bourbon. The defense introduces their testimony in an attempt to strengthen the defendant's alibi that he had been drunk and in the park at the time of the murder. Police crime scene report. Sergeant Jackson, referring to his notes. It was a single fatal blow delivered in a downward thrust. The handle grip turned up in the fingers for a better grasp. We have yet to determine ownership of the weapon. The defendant's prints were found on 6 different locations around the room. During defense cross-examination, Jackson admitted he found no prints on the weapon. Defense. Isn't it odd for a killer to carefully wipe off the knife and yet leave his prints all around the room? Maybe. Could the defendant have left prints there a day earlier, even a week earlier? I suppose. Did any of the defendant's prints contain traces of the victim's blood? No. Forensic blood report. Under cross-examination, the police expert admits that more than one blood type was found at the scene. Police expert. Our initial sampling produced only one, a type matching the defendant's. A later sample taken from the shirt, however, revealed a secondary blood source. According to tests, this was animal blood, probably chicken. Do you have any idea how chicken blood might have gotten to the scene of the crime? No idea at all. Usually unless the lab made a mistake, it happens. Defense Exhibit A, the second knife. A hunting knife identical to the one... A hunting knife identical in make to the murder weapon was discovered lodged in the branches of a tree not far from the window of the room where the murder victim was found. Most of the knife's 6-inch blade had been broken off, leaving only a 3/4-inch steel shaft. The blade was never found. This second knife had been wiped clean, but a microscopic examination revealed traces of blood on the broken shaft. Lab analysis verified that this was animal blood, probably from a chicken. The defense introduced the knife as contradictory evidence, but suggested no plausible theory as to how the knife blade had been broken or where the blood came from. I have a theory. Okay, now we go to let's go to the jury deliberation on the haunted house one, if I can find it here. the haunted house murder. Here we are. In the jury room, you spend a few hours reviewing physical evidence. The animal blood seems particularly problematic. Just as confusing is the second knife, which was supposedly carried by the figure Anne saw in the hall. Since this knife was found... just as confusing the second knife, which was supposedly carried by the figure Anne saw in the hall, since the knife was found nearby and had been in contact with the same type of animal blood. This broken weapon appears to be connected to the crime. A fellow juror suggests Lily had stumbled into some kind of ritualistic ceremony involving animal sacrifice. While the crime scene evidence shows that the defendant had been in the room, it doesn't connect Billy Willis directly to the crime. In fact, the lack of bloody fingerprints on the grisly scene is a point in his favor. The defendant's alibi also seems plausible. If a drunk buys alcohol at 11 p.m., chances are good that he will begin drinking right away. By midnight, Willis could well have been much too drunk to be capable of committing such a strenuous act. A female juror points out a discrepancy between the way the police described the knife's position and the way the prosecution described it in her opening statement. You review the transcripts but draw no conclusion about what this means. Now we are going to go to this. I have a theory here. You find Billy Willis not guilty. Egged on by your verdict, the district attorney kept the case open and eventually amassed enough evidence to prosecute Anne Kincaid. That's what I thought. She is the only possible one that could have been in the room, that could have killed her sister. And it's probably a knife that she found because, I don't know, it's the chicken blood. That's it. Okay. Egged on by your verdict, the district attorney kept the case open and eventually amassed enough evidence to prosecute Anne Kincaid. After hours of questioning, the 17-year-old broke down and confessed. For years, Anne had been jealous of her sister. Lily got everything, praise and attention, and, most galling of all, a first-rate education that their parents had saved years for. It was Lily who had thought up the prank that would lure their boyfriends into the old mansion and then scare them with a murder, just as in the movies. Anne instead saw how this fake murder could be turned into a real one. Lily and their parents would pay for their favoritism, and Anne would be the one to go to Princeton. During their exploration, Lily tiptoed away and set up the grisly scene, smearing herself with chicken blood and sticking the broken-off knife into her blouse. Anne made sure the boys didn't get too close to the body, at the same time making sure that she got a sufficient amount of blood on herself. The only thing Anne needed now was a few moments alone with her sister. As soon as she tricked the boys into running off, Anne produced the real knife and stabbed Lily to death. This second scream had also come from Lily, and this time she wasn't acting. In the 30 seconds it took the boys to run back upstairs, Anne had wiped off the fake knife and thrown it out the window. The chicken blood helped set the police on the right track, but the clincher was the murder weapon's position. Both Mark and Larry described the handle grip as facing down. The police photos, however, show it facing up. Someone had obviously removed the knife and reversed it, or stuck in a new knife, one with a blade. And that was Whodunit, You Decide. This was the second episode. Many mysteries for you to solve, and this is by Conrad and illustrated lovely by Lucy Corvino. I probably should have put the bookmark in, but oh well, I will remember where I am. Anyways, if you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload, and if you want to support me in any way, all that information will be in the description below. As always, thanks for watching everyone, and have a great day.